Elliot B coming in this afternoon, and we look forward to this. And one make that is well represented this weekend here is Austin. And when you look at these vehicles, it is pure coach building back in those days. And they're built to order, of course, you know. And just look at how much skill and work went into a vehicle of that class. Of course, the roads back in the 1920s and earlier were nothing like they are nowadays, of course. But one could arguably say they may well have been better, but we weren't bad. There was certainly a lot less traffic, wasn't there? And that's what motoring was all about. It was getting, you know, from A to B and back from B to A. But of course nowadays, you know, such a huge volume of traffic, you know, there's almost no room for vehicles like this on the highway. They certainly wouldn't be allowed to go along at a nice steady pace. So it would all be rush. But a vehicle like that would have started off literally an engine and a chassis. And then you would have the body built almost to your design. Yeah, because these vehicles, show the vehicle off. What a lovely vehicle. Because these vehicles are very much built to order. And they weren't an everyday person's vehicle either. You had to have money in the pocket. You had to have a deep pocket too for vehicles like this. A very deep pocket. And it was mainly people like doctors and vets and stuff who had vehicles like this. Anyway, this gentleman, you should have a chat to us about the vehicle. It's the most beautiful vehicle you can imagine. The amount of skill and coachwork that went into building it. Now, just looking at the steering wheel itself, there are things on the steering wheel which would suggest I would not be able just to jump behind the wheel and drive this. Because you've got things like retard and advance, haven't you? Yeah, that's just for the driver. It's, as I said, advance and retard on the steering wheel, which is pretty common right up through the 20s and possibly through the 30s. And also, if you look at the floor, it's got 4 pedals. Now, give us an insight into why it's got 4 pedals, because that's a question I don't know as a commentator myself. Well, we wouldn't guess it. It's a whistle, an exhaust whistle. It's not very good.
You going round?
But the car's 19 wheels. Austin 1824. That's 35 horsepower. Probably about 50 if it's brave enough, but the cruise is happily all going at 40. Don't know what the fuel is, rather not know. That's about it. Lots of brass and polish. You can imagine what motorists like in those days. You could probably go miles to not bump into a single car.
And then they got to the stage where they would judge it. They say, well, that should be black.
I think I was right in saying earlier on about it was almost a bit water back in those days, because we wouldn't have had $20 like you were saying today, of course. You know, a vehicle like this, you have to have a deep pocket if you were over too. Yeah, they weren't built on a production line, but they were built in theory. This one had an opposite box. The most were photographs which cover all being made exactly set concept, using the gang of the bloke tanks to the car with the car built, whereas later on the part came to the gang of bloke, and then further on still they could still and the cars moved on road. So this is sort of big way. The production cars were bent and they were made in their days, or not in the 1890s. And then the next thing on the production line was automobile, and made the cars on a special production line. And then we moved on to Ford, really wanted to invent the production line, but what did they do with the production line, which is what we've got today. Well, what a fantastic insight into the world of the old days. Anyway, have you done your homework? How much was it when it was free? I think it was £475. I think that's right, it was very good, but that was a bad thing. Yeah, it was about 500 of them made, a bit good money. Yeah. Thank you very much. If you want to pull forward and park up somewhere in the middle, I'll bring the next one in. Now, Gallant was a company that built some lovely vehicles around about 1938. They were in their prime, really. And again, you know, a very sort of special, there's a lot of hand skills gone into it. You know, when a company would take a set of wheels like this, they would almost be folded in the works and hammered into shape. They were never really an item which was not fabricated, it's all fabricated really. Anyway, Gary, how long have you owned this lovely little machine?
58 years. So it was Derek from my daughter. It was sitting around in the yard up in Family Surrey. And I bought it as a retirement project in our first services. And I started working on repairing it, not restoring it, in 2004. And by 2010, it was drivable, but by no means roadworthy. So I got it back on the road by 2013. And that the first charge was 2022. And it's been here most years since. It's an 1930 long four. Long means long wheelbase, and short wheelbase version. And the four being 4 doors, the 4-seat version, the 6-seat version, and the convertible version as well. So between the long and short, and the bodies in the storage, and a few lorries, they were only 200 mile up on base in 1930. And they were different to the ones in 1929, and they were different to the ones in 1931. And of the 1930 garage, I think there are about 15 left in the world, and this is the only one in this configuration.
I was going to answer that. Come forward, my friend. Let's let another vehicle in, because the older the vehicles they are, they sometimes sort of tipping over and overheating. So we just bring 3 or 4. And let's go ask us about how many are in business, because I know we've got the power of the internet nowadays, and that is very important that we've got that insight into the motor world. And I was having a look at some of the old mates earlier on, and it was quite surprising by how some of these companies were only around for a few years, and then all of a sudden they're gone. Anyway, what a lovely vehicle, Gallup, and a lovely use of the vinyl roof as well. Of course, that was a bit of a race that went all the way through to the 60s as well.
Yeah, they started generally in the motor industry, fabric filling came when cars were getting hard in 1927-28, and steel was expensive, fabric was a lot cheaper, and fabric filling became quite getting a fashion, I think, but certainly not uncommon on the street. But you will also find there a great number of vintage cars, pre-1930s, and actually pre-war, are basically wooden frames underneath, and either metal plating and then covered in fabric, or just don't covered in fabric like this one is.
Very nice indeed. Thank you very, very much. As I always say, if you want to know more about any of these vehicles, and get up close, have a chat to the owners, because you know you'll get them open the car stuff to show you just what motors and things want. You can stay there, my friend, if you want to. You need to stay there or pull around that way. I don't mind. Yeah, all right. Now let's have a look at the Model T. Now Henry Ford was the man who always said that you can have any colour vehicle as long as it's black, but of course he just proved that with some of the variations that come out of Ford work. But what a vehicle, and commercial vehicle as well. Anyway, we're just talking about Henry Ford, my friend. The Great Britain, you can't hear me, can you? No. I was just talking about Henry Ford, the great British man there from America, who gave us the choice of pickups, saloon cars and vans. And racing cars and starter motors for aeroplanes, all sorts of things they adapted them for. In the First World War, there were pickup versions of this used with machine guns at the back and sort of early desert rats. They were cheap, basically, disposable. And of course, you've done your homework. What year have we got? 1915. So she's got acetylene headlights, but by 15 the cars would have had electric headlights. So she's sort of using up the bits that were left over, I guess, for a van. Very, very nice indeed. Very nice vehicle. Yeah, talk yourself into one of the slots there. Thank you. Anyway, the Brush Motor Company. That's an old one, because I looked at them on the internet earlier on. They weren't around many years. I think they sort of came in and was gone by either 1913 or they were gone by 1930. I can't remember what it said, but the brush motor vehicle is somewhat very, very different. But again, you look at it, it's sweeter than that, isn't it? That's pretty lovely. Anyway, we're going to find out a little bit more about the brush motor company. It's a very good afternoon to you.
Sorry, I didn't hear a word of that.
I say, we're going to find out a little bit more about the brush vehicle.
Oh right, so yeah, it's a 1910 bus runabout. Driven by my father who sadly passed away last year, so I brought it along. So we always just come to Hooe every year. So we brought it along for a run out in the sunshine. So yeah.
Now when you get a vehicle this age, how do you go to an insurance company and say, I want it valued at X amount of pounds? Do they ever sort of argue with you or not?
Oh yeah, if you want it insured, you have to get them appraised or appraise it for the amount you want and things like that. So this year they wanted to give them a mileage reading so they could tell how many miles I've done.
Incredible, you haven't got a speedo or a myometer, have you, Nick?
No, I've read that, so I can't abide by the 5 mile an hour speed limit either, sorry about that.
Anyway, beautiful vehicle. Look at that, everyone. That is somewhat very, very different. That is lovely. Anyway, as I said earlier on, we've got lots of options here in the lineup this weekend. Lots of options. And again, we're back to that good old British day. Great skills and skills that we've had in the day. When you look inside, the amount of paperwork for these vehicles in Sussex in their construction, it uses not only people on the workshop option who can put these together, but you also need the carpenters who have those skills to actually do all the civil work before the day on the outside. Anyway, how long have you owned it?
It's my father's car, and we've got it about 4 years, I think.
So what's it like to drive on the highways of today? Do you find people are sort of intolerant of an old vehicle or not?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, she's not always quite got the patience to appreciate that. It's not quickly.
And of course you can't rush it, it's not a racing car either, is it? So you've got to take your time and go through all the gearboxes. So the gearbox hasn't got any stigma, so it'll be a crash gearbox. For those who don't know what that is, go back the olden days, you double the press.
Yeah, that's it, yeah, just the way you think like, the gearbox sitting at the same speed, yeah, that's the way.
Very nice indeed. Thanks very much for bringing it along this weekend. Hope you had a great day at the Hooe Motor Show. How about that? Anyway, we're back to the Model T again, aren't we? The Ford. And yeah, this looks like it's done it out of the TV programme, the Walton. It's done it back in the 1970s. But this was their standard vehicle. It was the Ford standard truck back in its day. And I've seen this, I think, at the big one, the Central, Illinois Central Transport, it's seen this.
925, 4 model 10 transfer, third, for a vineyard of time. Assembly all died, obviously from American time, and yeah, worked on the vineyard in about 93, kind of a country in 92, and probably Carolina is coming to
Now what makes you do this? It almost looks like the steering wheel is almost like that, but it can't go the other way up, otherwise it would have found is that the ignition in the van or what? That's the ignition.
No, I've never tried it. Miles the other day, it's amazing. It really looks a bit higher. That's winter. But anyway, these two levers, that's a bump you start on the left, and that's handset as well.
Very interesting, I love it. Anyway, nice vehicle, somewhat fitting, see? There's always a vehicle for someone when you want a car, a commercial, or something rather different. Now, what have we got here? This looks rather nice, doesn't it? 26 Rally. The Morris Minor. Now, when you think the Morris Minor, we think of the 1958 invention that rolled out of the British Motor Company back in the day. But this is before the British Motor Company. When they traded separately, I would imagine. Very, very nice indeed. So, when you get a vehicle this age, do you get the parts all right? Because the older they are, the more sort of rarer they are. Does it present a problem for them?
Most of the parts are available through test or carbon stock,
That's a testament to its build quality, isn't it? That you can still get parts. So what year are we talking about?
1940.
Very nice indeed. Anyway, there we go. A very proud owner of the Morris Minor. That's the first one I've actually seen on the rally field, and I cover a lot of shows. That is lovely. Just look at the skill and the design on the back of that. Yeah, it's all done in those days. Early days were timber and then metal. It's just with aluminium. But yeah, look at it. What have we got here? We've got something very, very nice. I can't get too close to my transmitter, my friend, so if I get a little squeak, I'm coming back over that side. So we're back to the Ford Empire again.
Good afternoon. This is my Model T of 1925, so one of the later ones, one of the last ones to be built. One of the most reliable cars I've ever had. I normally got the steam car here, but everyone with a steam car has a Model T up the back of the shed they can rely on and pull back on. But the steam car was banned from coming here this weekend because of the native flames on it. So I thought I'd better turn up in the Model T and keep everyone happy.
Well, that's very nice to see it, my friend. Absolutely lovely vehicle. And of course, the old Henry Ford saying was any colour as long as it's black. So there we have a lovely example of the T. But again, the question is, how do you get a good valuation? Have you got a good valuation from the insurance, or are they a little bit difficult? The what first? Have you got a good valuation for insurance, or are they a little bit difficult? Because some of the shows I go to, they talk about they go to get the vehicle insured to a value which they're happy with, and the insurance company normally argue it.
Oh, no, they're very accommodating. Well, on my car, Allard 1949, it cost me £80 fully insured for 3,000 miles, and that includes fully comprehensive. So it's a very good rate from, I can't think of the company, but they're very good. Anyway, there you go.
That's a bargain.
But James, £26 a year. Cherish car insurance, I recommend it.
I've used them for one of my vehicles. That's Michael Chamberlain, I think that is, up there in Guildford. Yeah, I've used it. Right, thank you very much, cars A and B. What a lovely lineup we've had for you, haven't we? Now, not all the vehicles come into the arena, and the reason they don't come into the arena is because they can simply come here and display. And they display it so that you get a really interesting history right across the lineup, so that you can see how vehicles have changed, how coach building has changed, how style has changed. And more importantly, you can get an understanding how mechanics have changed. So when we talk of this early ages, you know, when we go right back to the 1911 vehicle that was one of these, I think it was that one, and you go back to only sort of 4 years previous, they were walking with a red flag in front of vehicles. So you can see that in those 4 years, how motorists moved forward. There you go. I wonder which one, ladies and gentlemen, you would like out of all of those, because, you know, it's horses for courses, isn't it? You know, some people buy a vehicle for a family car, some people buy a vehicle to do a job, especially when it comes to things like pickups and van versions. Anyway, thank you very much, cars A and B. We've got covered in, I think it's section D at 2 o'clock. So if our photographer wants to take a photo of the lineup for us, I'll get out of your way. Public announcement is of Sam Bromley on the showground, please. Sam Bromley, if you could contact Sharon, the secretary of the club. We've got something with you blocks. So Sam Bromley, if you get in contact with Sharon, please. Anyway, our photographer all done. Okay, fantastic. What a lovely lineup anyway, everyone. Hope you've got an inkling into what transport used to be back in the day. I can't imagine it myself because, you know, the roads were probably never like they are now. You know, probably mostly sort of dirt, many potholes maybe, and certainly all the side roads, not the main roads. And it wasn't until about 1950s that you actually got motorways. So, you know, it was a long time before we got some really decent roads, I must say. Okay, owners, we go back to your parking areas. Thank you very much for bringing the exhibits in for us. And we'll be back 2 o'clock for cars for the D section. Public announcement for the marshals on the site. If you've got any